Today, we're going to talk about the power of choices. And this is something that you may have heard of before, and parents can kind of be all over the place with it. They're like, well, I wasn't given choices, or I don't, want my kid to have too many choices because they won't always have a choice in life, and different things like that. But what we know with conscious discipline is that choices start to provide some internal motivation to comply. And from that, they can build self-regulation. It improves academic achievement, fosters well-being, promotes some pro-social behaviors, and it also really helps keep and maintain and build that parent-child relationship, which will be so powerful throughout your parenting journey. And so we're going to talk about how to use choices well today. And first of all, it's just important to know that they talk about the powers in conscious discipline, and one of them is that we all have the power of free will. And that means that I'm in charge of me, and I'm the only person who can make myself change. And then that also means that then you're in charge of you, and you're the only person who can make yourself change. So free will requires us to honor our will, but also the will of others, and that includes our child. And so what we're really going to focus on is that the power of choice really helps, or the power comes from choice and not force. So forcing our kids to comply is going to give them external motivation to comply and do things, and that will work as long as you have power over them. But at some point, your kids may outgrow you or get stronger than you. My 6'4" son now would not be under my control to be able to force to do something. And at the end of the day, we want our kids to have that internal desire to comply. We want them to have it come from inside, and that's just going to foster a lot of more positive things for them. And non-compliance can come from a lot of things at this age. Part of it is they're just developing their autonomy. Around 14 months, or when they start to really get good at walking, they're going to be able to leave their primary caregiver's little orbit and get further away. You'll see little kids come back and touch base and then travel back off again. And the more confident they are that there's that secure connection and attunement still in that safe place, then the more confident they are to go off and explore. If they come back and aren't given that attunement and attachment and reassurance and safety, then they may cling a little bit more. But if they're feeling safe, they're going to wander off. And then part of that also becomes developing that autonomy, which is a little bit of power and control over their own little world. And I think most of us would admit that our kids don't have a lot of control over their day and their world. We're often in a hurry and asking them to come and go and do things kind of all day long, maybe before they are ready. And we've talked about a lot of things like having predictable routines and using visuals and things like that to make their world more predictable, trying to not be in a hurry and slow things down a little bit, giving them unstructured time and building that connection with you. And all of those things are going to help them to be a little bit more cooperative. Another tool that you can add in there is by giving your kids choice. And that choice provides that internal motivation and willingness on their end to do things. And this works really well if you use it correctly. And so a couple of things. First, you want to make sure that you're giving them 2 positive choices. Kids our age in that birth to 3 realm, we definitely don't want to give more than 2, or that gets overwhelming. And we need to make sure that they're both positive. So saying it's time to clean up or you're going to go to your room, that's not a choice. That's coercion and trying to use a punishment to help convince them to do what we want. But if instead we offer 2 positive choices that are both okay with us, then it looks more like, hey, it's time to clean up. You get a choice. Would you like to clean up the big blocks or the little blocks first? You choose. Now all of a sudden they're both getting the end that I am looking for done and within our boundary, but it's giving them a choice in how that gets done. And so this is not permissive parenting. We're not going to allow non-compliance to be the answer. It's just going to provide them, take out maybe a little bit of that power struggle. So it's important that we say the first part with enthusiasm, you get a choice, and it sounds positive. And then if they don't comply, we're going to repeat it super calmly. So if they say no, or they keep playing or throw the block, we're going to say, oh, it's time to clean up. Big blocks or little blocks first, you choose. Then if they still don't comply, then we're going to say, gosh, it looks like you're having a hard time choosing. So leading with empathy, I'm going to help. I'm going to choose for you. Let's start with the big ones. Look, I'll help. And if it means even hand over hand helping them comply so that they finish complying, then we're going to do that. But by offering 2 things that they can choose from that both get the need that we have met, that's great. And we're going to sometimes assume compliance. So some kids do better if I'm not sitting there looking right at them and waiting for them to comply. That feels a little bit like a threat. But if instead I say, oh, it's time to clean up, big blocks or little blocks first, you choose, and then almost start to kind of walk away or turn away a little bit and assume they're going to comply. Sometimes that will relieve that threat a little bit and they'll be able to do that. You might see kids huff and puff and eventually comply, but with a little bit of attitude, we might call it as a parent. Sometimes that's just the cortisol releasing from their little body. And so if we can ignore those behaviors, if they're doing what we asked. And then the biggest part is noticing when they do. So if they do make a choice and pick up even just one block, you say, you made a choice. You chose the small blocks, and notice and give them attention for that positive thing that they did. That's going to be huge. Something else we're going to focus on, and you'll see it on your handout, is not giving away our power by the language that we choose to use. So we don't want to say things like, don't make me pull the car over. Now I'm saying that you're making me do something. And in fact, I'm making a choice. Based on your behavior, I'm making a choice, but it's still me making the choice. And so instead, we're going to use language like, I'm going to pull the car over until the seatbelts are on and everyone's safe. Or I'm going to pull the car over until you can stop kicking my seat because that's making it hard for me to drive. So I'm going to say what I'm going to do because, again, I'm in control of me, not you. Even if it's your child, and changing that language is also going to then model for them keeping their own power as well. The other thing we're going to do is in our head, instead of having that thought of how can I make my kid do this or how can I make them stop this, we're going to switch that language to how can I help my child successfully, whatever it is I want them to do. Just that little shift of instead of how can I make them do something, which becomes kind of more just behavior control, to how can I help them be successful? Do they need new skills? Do I need to calm down? Do I need to help them? How can I support this? Is going to be a much more effective way of communicating. If you're doing that in your head, then how it comes out is going to work a lot better for your kiddos. So step one, we're going to breathe deeply, make that conscious decision to focus on what I want my child to do. And then I'm going to tell the child, you have a choice, in an upbeat tone. And then I'm going to state the two choices. Again, they're both going to achieve the goal that we're looking for. And then I'm going to complete the process by saying, what's your choice? So here's your two choices. What's your choice, or which one works for you? And then at the end, when they do comply, I'm going to notice it and say, you made a choice. You chose red, or you chose the small blocks, or you chose to hop to the car. And so it's really important to note also that we're going to use this when our child's in that blue state, in emotional, maybe non-compliant, but not the red zone where they're in fight or flight and aren't making eye contact and are like kicking, screaming. Your past choices at that point. And we're going to work on helping them feel safe first. But this works really well if they're in that emotional state, and I just need them to get back into their thinking part of their brain. And again, if they refuse, I'm going to repeat it once, maybe even a little bit shorter. So instead of the whole sentence again, I'm going to say small blocks or big blocks, you choose. And then if they don't, then, oh, you're having a hard time here. I'm going to help choose for you. Let me help you, and help them do it. And then when they've done it, making sure again that we say, you did it, you picked up the small blocks. So those are all really important. And then just some things to think about are, again, that meaning behind behavior. We know that connection breeds cooperation. So if I have a kiddo who's not cooperating frequently, is that maybe a sign that our connection is broken down, and do I need to slow down and make sure that they're getting some one-on-one undivided attention, maybe using some I love you rituals? Is our schedule not very predictable and they don't know that I'm going to have to clean up and go somewhere? Am I not giving them warnings or using visual routines? Something like that could be helpful. Is the skill too hard for them? Do they need help? If I say clean up your room, that's going to feel super overwhelming to a little kiddo. Do I need to break it down into smaller steps? Do I need to help model it? Do I need to make pictures of it to help, clean up time? Having pictures on the baskets where things go maybe is a solution. So making sure we think about all those things too, and then using choices as another tool. So on your sheet this month, you're going to have some opportunities to practice some scenarios, putting choices behind them. It's always easier when you can plan ahead. So if you know that there's a time that your kiddo is going to struggle with cooperating, planning ahead some choices that you could give them. If it's going to bed, is it changing up the routine? Would you like to read books first or brush your teeth first? Would you like one book or two books? Again, making sure you're okay with both options. But if I know that transition or that part of the day is going to be hard, can I think ahead and build on some choices ahead of time? That's always easier than when you're in the moment. So choices are going to help motivate from within. They're going to help them build their own great inner thought process with all of those things, their self-regulation. And so good luck with those.